Alright. I'm not ready to go to the swamp camp just yet because I want to. I kind of want to keep this walkthrough condensed, or at least in a sort of natural, sensible progression. So I want to do all the old camp stuff first. Then we'll move on to the other camps. So yeah, Baal, what's his name there? He's the one who will lead you to the swamp camp, so he's kind of your guide to that camp. And we will find another fellow who can be our guide to the new camp as well. Let's talk to this guy.
Hi, I'm new here. How's things?
Go away. I've been working my ass off in the mines for the last 2 weeks. And what for? Some sad lumps of ore is all I got. I had to spend most of it on food. I talked to Baal Parvez down there. He told me some interesting things about the sect camp. I think I'd better go there instead of slaving away for Gomez.
You don't like it here? Why don't you just go then?
Because I'm not quite sure what to expect there. I had a pal here. His name was Melvin. He headed off to the sect camp a week ago. But since then, I haven't heard of him. And as long as I don't get a message from him, I'll stay here.
Well, there's a new quest for us. He wants us to go talk to Melvin and see what is up with him. And you see, that's part of a quest called New Souls for the Brotherhood. There's a much more broad quest that this one kind of ties into, but that's one you will get if you want to join the swamp camp, so we'll be able to deal with that in due time.
Hey, you!
Hey!
I trade in swamp weed and potions from the sect camp. Do you want something?
What is swamp weed?
What is swamp weed?
New here, are you? You can smoke it. Very relaxing for most of us.
Now, it's interesting to note that the way he says that seems to imply that swamp camp does not exist outside, or swamp weed. Did I say swamp camp? Swamp weed does not seem to exist outside the barrier or outside the colony. And it's interesting because obviously in the later games we see very clearly that it does have a very pronounced presence in the outside world. And I'm not really sure why he implies that coming here is how people tend to get exposed to it. But it could be just sort of like one of those incontinuities that they just kind of retconned when they were making the sequels, so...
I want to join the camp. I want to become a shadow.
Oh, you're looking for a chance to prove your worth? Good. You can do me a favor. If you do it well, I'll speak up for you in front of Diego.
What is it?
In the sect camp, there's a man called Kalam, quite a big shot. One of the gurus of the sect. Kalam is an alchemist. He has the recipe for an effective healing potion. I'd like to buy the recipe off him. Then I can produce it myself. But nobody can get near Kalam.
And what do you expect me to do?
The sect loonies are looking for new people all the time. You're new here. Just pretend you want to be recruited. Kalam is one of the gurus. That means he checks the new candidates. If you get in touch with him, try to get the recipe. Whether you want to pay for it or you don't, I don't care.
Sounds like a difficult business. How much is in it for me?
At some point, Diego will ask me if you're suitable for us. Just guess what my answer will depend on.
Maybe I'll have to pay for the recipe. Give me 50 ore as an advance payment.
Forget it.
No ore, no recipe.
Well then, we can talk about the ore as soon as you have the recipe.
Now, I'm tempted to do this, but I haven't saved. I don't remember what he says if you insist on the ore. So let's just see what happens, since this has to be a 100% walkthrough after all.
No, I want to see ore right now, or you can get your recipe yourself.
There's enough other newcomers. I think I should give the job to one of them.
Alright, so he's very determined. He will not deal with us if we insist on it.
Okay, I'll see if I can get the thing. Where is the sect camp?
Leave the camp through the south exit, then head eastwards. You'd better take a map. I got one here for 50 ore.
Oh, you
The
little
south exit
bastard.
is the collapsed tower, isn't it?
Exactly.
Now, he says he'll sell you the map. He sells, I think, a map of the
Show me your-
entire
I got the
inhabited colony. Yeah, it says a big territory in the southwest is missing. That's part of the colony that no one really has access to, and that's why that's not filled in on the map. You could also get this from Graham the cartographer as well. But you don't really need it. He doesn't tell you that you can take Baal Parvez as a guide, probably just because he wants to be able to sell you the map, because he's a money-grubbing little asshole. Anyway, since he's the first merchant that we've actually dealt with. Fisk was the first merchant that we've encountered, but we might as well take the opportunity to sell him some things. Pickaxes are actually not useful in this game, even though you can run into veins of ore that you can mine stuff from. You just don't get anything from it. It's just an animation, really. So the trade menu is a little bit confusing. It took me the longest time to really figure it out, and the most important thing is that these columns in the middle are how you balance out the value of your items versus the value of theirs. And ore, of course, is the just base currency. Now, it will, unlike the other games in Piranha Bytes' catalog, this one will not automatically balance, or give an option to, at least, to automatically balance the value in the trade menus. So you have to do it yourself. If you put hundreds of ore worth of stuff in this and you hit enter, you give him that stuff for free, because you never compensated out of his inventory to equal the value of the stuff you're selling to him. So you have to make sure that the numbers on the top of these columns here match. If it's less, it'll close the menu. If it's less on your part than it is from his, for example, it will just keep the menu open. It won't allow you to finish the trade because you're not giving him an equal value to what you're asking. And if he has less than what you're trying to sell him, it will accept the trade, but you miss out on whatever leftover ore there is. So, because I had 10 ore, I had stuff valued at 10 ore, and I only asked 9 from him, I gave him all that stuff for 9 ore. So I gave him the stuff for less than it was worth. And that's important, because you can screw that up. So just keep that in mind. Now, here's something a little interesting here. This is something I'm not sure how many people actually know about it, but there's a kind of a little hole in the wall here. And it's very odd. And there's a door here. Alright, you see that? I was trying to pick the lock on the door, but it's actually not possible to. I tried turning the pick lock in both directions, and it wouldn't open. Picking locks, if you get an instructor to actually teach you how to do it, he'll explain the process, but the gist of it is while you're facing while you're focused on the chest or the door that you're trying to unlock, you have to use either the turn keys or the strafe keys to use the lockpick. Unfortunately, I broke the only one I had. So basically, if you fail at picking the lock, you can possibly break your lockpick, and it'll tell you to start all over again. So you have to do a combination of sorts in order to pick all the locks. Here I'm just killing these meat bugs because we do need them for snaff. So yeah, if you don't succeed in picking the lock and you break your lockpick, that's one less lockpick you have available to you. So you have to be very careful about it, and you have to start the whole lockpicking combination over again. And having a higher skill in lockpicking does allow you to open more difficult locks, and it also decreases the chance of you breaking a lockpick if you fail. Apart from that, as I've said before, if it's something that you cannot actually pick the lock for, it will still allow you to attempt it, but if you turn the lockpick in either direction, it'll fail either way. Now, since we have gotten 10 learning points because we leveled up for doing Whistler's quest, the first thing I want to do is actually improve my fighting skill.
Do you train fighters at all?
Yeah.
But I forgot that you actually have to pay 50 ore to do it, so bugger that. Not something we can do just yet. We could use the 10 learning points to learn how to pick locks from fingers, and then we'd get his approval. But by the time that really matters, we'll have 10 more learning points anyway. Alright, so one of the NPCs I just passed here has a very familiar name, doesn't he?
Hey, newcomer. I'm Mordrag.
What the hell happened?
You should remember that name. You can buy any kind of goods from me at a cheap price.
Because they don't actually belong to you.
Are you really the magician's courier?
What if I am?
I'd like to have a chance to talk to the magicians. I have to get inside the castle.
The magician's couriers bear seals, which allow them entry to the castle. If you were one of us, you could get such a seal.
Damn it. So we'll take a look at his inventory really quick. Mordrag doesn't actually have anything all that useful, nor does he have a lot of any of it. So he's not really a worthwhile merchant in any way.
You have a problem.
Really? What's that?
There are people around here who want to get rid of you.
Really? Then you can tell them they should send someone along to enforce their wish.
What makes you so sure I'm not the one to do it?
'Cause I think you're smarter than that, boy. You'll soon realize that there are better opportunities than working for Gomez. We, too, need capable people in the new camp. And nobody tells you what to do.
Tell me more about the new camp.
It's the camp where you have the most freedom within the colony. We don't have any ore barons or gurus bossing us around. We have our own mine, but the ore that is produced there isn't given to the damn king.
So what is it used for?
Our magicians are working on a plan to break out of here. All the ore is collected for this plan. While Gomez and his people are lazing around, we drudge for freedom. That's what's going on.
And if I wanted to join the new camp, could you help me?
If you're serious, we can go now. I can take you to Laris. He's the head of our gang. But if you prefer to beat me out of the camp, well, go for it.
So there's two options with this guy. We can follow through with Thoris's mission with more determination, which would be to try and kill the fellow. Or we can follow him to the new camp and try to join them as well. Now, in truth, even if you want to join the old camp, leaving the camp with him is enough to satisfy Thoris's demands as well. And as far as I know, there's no reward difference whether you kill him or just have him leave the camp. So there's no reason to actually fight him, but I do want to see if there's a way you can pull it off, because he is a tough fighter. So fighting him at this stage of the game is not really a wise option.
I've been thinking about that protection money. Here's your 10 ore.
You've made the right choice, man. I'll protect you from now on.
There might be a way to do this. And Jackal here might be the key to succeeding.
Show me.
Now, while we're here, because I'm just kind of idling about while I wait for Jackal to get into position. Fisk is the one here who sells weapons. And there's one smith in the outer ring of this camp. And he's the only person who actually makes weapons here, but he does not actually sell them. So I think Fisk is probably the one who buys out his inventory. sort of wholesale and then sells it to everyone else at a higher price. So he's the only one around here who you can obtain weapons from at this point in the game. Now, for some reason, Jackal is hanging out up here. At some point, he does go down to the gate up there, and that's where I need him to be if we're going to try and pick a fight with Mordrag. Now, you see, this kind of thing is just what really distinguishes the Gothic games from even the later Risen games, and especially from games like Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls. It's just a much more human way to their approach to making all the NPCs seem like they actually have, you know, a purpose here and interests and everything. Now, Skyrim did finally implement things like you see NPCs, you know, doing jobs like forging weapons and running sawmills and stuff. But you still don't see them doing things like this, where they're all gathered around a central location. Some of them are having smoke, some of them are eating, some of them are drinking, one's playing the lute. And some... it won't actually work, I don't know why. You can... Sometimes there are NPCs who, like, turn the spit here and roast the meat. And just everything seems very organic. Not really even organic, but just very human. And everything just kind of seems natural. In Risen 3, for example, you don't really see the NPCs doing any of that kind of thing. They do have some idle activities that some of them will go around doing. Sometimes they're, you know, walking around some crates in the harbor and taking notes in a book and all this kind of stuff, but none of it just seems as natural. And none of them chat with each other the way they do in this game. You're always walking through, you hear people just... They're on loops, but they... You know, none of their dialogue actually leads anywhere or means anything, but it's still... because it's in the background, you don't really interpret their language so much as the fact that they're talking in a very natural way. And for some reason... Jackal still isn't doing what I want him to do.
Hello.
But, yeah, in Risen 3, the only time NPCs ever talked to each other was when it was scripted. And they had something that the developers actually expected you to listen to. And they just never have the unscripted, or, like, less scripted, the just very natural dialogue that happens when these NPCs come past each other. And I remember when Oblivion tried to do the same thing, and God, that was horrifying. I never want to hear about the Fighters Guild or fucking mudcrabs ever again. Now, there's also more to it that I should have brought up earlier, but even the unnamed NPCs always have something to say.
How's it going?
I've spent the last 2 weeks working in the mine. All I want is peace. Get out of my sight.
They're not always friendly, though. But if you ever kind of like are a little bit lost, you can talk to them to kind of find out where things are, who important people are, and that sort of thing. It can be helpful, but just the fact that they took the time to script a little bit of extra dialogue for all the unnamed NPCs is just another sign of the attention to detail that most developers, including modern Parvez themselves, just really seem to be lacking. Alright, so let's see if this actually works after all this waiting I've done. So Jackal did say that if we ever have trouble with the new camp or the sect camp, he will come to our aid because, of course, most of the old camp fellows would have paid him protection money as well. So let's just see what happens if we pick a fight with Mordrag.
This camp ain't big enough for the both of us.
Pardon me?
Thoris sent me. He wants to get rid of you once and for all.
Really? Thoris? That's all I wanted to know.
Put the weapon down! What do you think? Ah! Little guy!
Oh, damn.
Try that again. Over by himself.
Well, safe to say that Jackal didn't do jack shit for
Nice
us.
of you to leave me some of your ore.
So, paying off Jackal is completely pointless. And, well, at least now we know that. But that means I did a whole lot of waiting for nothing. So there you have it. Jackal need not be paid. There's no point to it, no value to it whatsoever. But, at least this way, we can keep Mordrag around. I am curious to see... You know what? Let's just see... Just for the sake of, completion, let's just see what happens if Mordrag is dead. And there's one of the glorious Marvin mode commands at work. Now, I think I might do a video where I kind of go in more depth of Marvin mode, but the bottom line is Marvin mode is the debug mode. It's the mode that the developers used to test the game. And there are loads of different commands you can use, including the kill command, which is one of my favorites. The problem with the kill command in this game is that anything that dies by it does not give you experience. It's treated as though they died from, you know, some other act. And so you never get the experience for them dying. And apart from this, so that's why you just don't want to overuse it, but it is a very powerful command indeed.
Mordrag will never steal anything from anyone ever again.
You mean you defeated him? That's not bad, kid.
And that's that. He doesn't really have much more to say about it, but keep in mind that we got 300 experience for doing that, and I'm not really sure how much experience we get for just getting Mordrag to leave the camp, so we'll make that distinction once we actually get that far. But for now, I'm not ready to leave to the new camp, and we are just going to finish talking to everybody here, except for Bloodwind. And one of the other characters is right over here. Here's the smith, Huno. He is the only one providing weapons for the individuals out here.
It looks as if you knew what you were doing.
Nobody ain't complained yet, but that would be a bad idea anyway. Every idiot here needs a sword, and that is what they get from me.
How long does it take you to make one blade?
That depends. I'm as fast as a hurricane with simple swords. Of course, only on condition that the price motivates me. A freak like Whistler usually has to wait longer for his toy than other people.
Why? Doesn't he pay enough?
No, on the contrary. He gave me 150 ore for his last sword. The guy is into ornaments and girly stuff like that, and of course that's not cheap. Hey, you ain't curious at all, are you, pal?
So that does show that the people here do buy directly from Huno, which makes me wonder how Fisk gets his weapons and why people would ever buy from him. It's possible that Fisk's weapons come from the outside world instead, but I couldn't really tell you.
Well, Smith, how's business?
Why would you want to know?
I may have an order for you.
Oh, really? And what?
I'll think about it.
Come back when you really need something, and don't get on my nerves.
Now, that dialogue option stays there forever, and I think that's because there was possibly the intention that you would be able to order a sword from Huno and, you know, have it custom made and just... He makes it when you order it, and you get it after a certain amount of time and for a certain amount of money. But it doesn't seem to me that that is an option they ever actually finished developing.
I'd like to try working here as well.
Ah, but don't you think that you can make great blades?
What do I have to do?
Okay, take the steel and hold it into the fire. Then you have to lay the red-hot steel across the anvil. When you're finished, you put the hot blade into the water bucket over there to temper it. The cooled blade finally has to be sharpened on the grindstone.
I see.
However, you'll need some things for that. I could sell them to you.
And so,
I'd like to...
Huno will sell you blacksmithing equipment. And he sells you everything from the raw steel all the way up, from red hot steel, which has already been in the forge, to the glowing blades, which have already been formed and just need to be cooled. And from the blade, you also get the cool blade, which just needs to be sharpened. And each of these things is more expensive than the previous stage. So all they do is save you a few seconds of time for you to buy one of the God damn, it's quiet all of a sudden. It only saves you a few seconds of time if you buy one of the, one of the ones that have already been partly made. So that's never really worth your time. Or worth your ore, more likely. And the only time you can really forge weapons is after it's dark and Huno and his partner have gone to bed. And in this chest here is a goodly amount of raw steel. And I don't know if you actually need to talk to Huno before you can make a sword. You might be able to do it beforehand. I've always done it that way. But he just tells you the process, so if you don't know what you're doing, that's how you get started. Now let's try and buy a lockpick from Mordrag.
Show me. Choose something.
Lockpicks are worth 10 ore apiece. We have just enough for that. And I hope that we are able to pick this lock, because if it turns out we are unable to, forging swords can be a very profitable business early on in the game. Not tremendously so. The Golden mod did add options to sell your custom-made swords to certain NPCs at a higher price. And the Dark Mysteries mod did have a wider variety of weapons that you can actually forge. Unfortunately, as I said, both those mods just didn't... For all their good ideas, the game just didn't work. And I broke it. Alright, let's try again. Right. Shit! Right. Right. Left. Right. Left. Left. Sweet, I got it. Oh, and he's already got 2 finished swords here as well. Alright then. Let's go ahead and forge ourselves some swords. So first you have to heat it in the forge. And then you have to hammer it on the anvil, which thankfully you don't actually need to have a hammer in your inventory. You just pull one from a hammer space, as it were. And you cool it in the water bucket. And grind it on the grindstone. Now, needless to say, legitimate sword forging is substantially more complicated than that. But this is one of the first, and really the only games that actually go into detail and have you go into depth with the actual sword forging. Unfortunately, you can only forge one type of sword in this game, which is the crude sword. And it's just... The crude sword is only... If you get 10 more strength, then it's the first sword you get that's actually really worth a damn. But it doesn't really last very long. And since it's the only sword you can forge, smithing is never as valuable as it was in the later games. Although in Gothic 2, without the Night of the Raven expansion, once again, you could only forge one type of sword. Or, no. I don't think that's true. I actually can't remember. It's been so long since I played the game without the Gold Edition. I don't really remember. You might have been able to forge more than one type of sword. Yeah, you had to have been. But it's just that the blacksmith master craftsman, Herod, would only ever buy one type from you. So, yeah, that's how that works. And what are we working with now? Still got 14 raw steel left, so I'll see you guys once I finish all these. Now, one of the important things when forging weapons, it's possible that you'll run into a problem where if you're trying to do more than one sword at the same time, so for example, if I tried to heat up the entire stack of steel, all 20 at once, and then go and hammer all 20 at once, cool all 20 at once, and then sharpen all 20 at once, very possible that some of them would start to disappear. It's a glitch I noticed both in this game and in Gothic 2, and I'm not really sure why it was happening, but it's just a really big problem. That's why I've been doing them one at a time. You stand a fairly high chance of actually losing some of your materials if you try to do too many at once. And my brother and I, back in the day, used to think it was actually an intentional feature where, you know, if you held onto a red hot blade for too long without forging it, it would cool off, and then you couldn't forge it again. And for some reason, we were convinced that was actually a feature, and that's why your materials disappeared, because you never used them and somehow got ruined, and I don't know. But you know, years later, I'm pretty convinced it was a glitch. I don't think Huno actually has any ore, so we have to find a merchant who will actually purchase this stuff. Who had a decent amount of money? It was Dexter, I think. Now we might... I don't think we're going to keep any of these swords for now. Outside of the gate here is after killing a couple monsters, is a fairly decent weapon that I'm pretty sure we can use even at the low strength that we have. But let us sell these weapons to Fisk.
Show me your good.
Now, as far as Fisk's armor goes, none of it is actually worth buying, and I meant to mention it earlier. But none of it is worth buying because we can actually get free clothes from somewhere else, and I will show you that when we come to it. Now, that was a really healthy chunk of money we got there. And that was only 6. No, not that would have been more than 6. These aren't worth 100 apiece. They are. But we only sell them, so... How many did we sell? We sold a dozen? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, we sold a dozen for 600 gold, and that's a good chunk of money. And sell the rest to Dexter.
Show me your...
I guess we can't sell the rest to him, but we can sell at least 3 of them to him. You know what we can sell for? No, not 5, just 4. And sell for, take all his money and... Well, I guess 1 lockpick. Give him 1 of those back. And there we have it. And with this nice stack of ore we got going on here, we can get Scatty to actually teach us the first one-handed weapon skill. And I think Scatty... No, I don't think Scatty's approval depends on whether or not you can... Whether or not you've learned how to fight with weapons, but it's possibly that his approval counts for double if you get it. So I'm not really sure. We'll find out.
Yeah, but not...
I want to improve my handling of one-handed weapons.
That's a good decision. Before you can improve your technique, you'll have to learn how to hold the weapon right. Beginners often tend to hold one-handed weapons with both hands. Now, don't even start getting into that habit. It'll do you no good. Hold the weapon with one hand, blade up, and keep swinging. You have to learn to harmonize your weapon's swing with your own movements. That'll make you faster in the attack. If you keep in mind what I've taught you, your fights will be more elegant and a lot faster in future. Oh yeah, one more thing. Some hits cause more damage than others. As a beginner, you don't stand much of a chance making critical hits. But the further you progress, the better you get.
So he has taught us the first stage of one-handed weapon skill. And from there, there's only one more stage, which is the master training. And right now we have a 5% chance of getting a critical hit. And that's not very substantial, but those critical hits can mean a lot in a fight. And when we master our one-handed technique, we have a 10% chance of getting a critical hit. So 1 out of every 10 hits is a critical, and that could be very helpful. But more obvious than that is that our whole technique has changed as a result. You see, we're holding our sword in one hand now, which is exactly what Scatty recommended. I would say overall it's easier to do the left to right combos as well. It seems like you have a wider window to press the buttons. You can still screw it up if you try too fast. So you can see mashing buttons is never the right idea. And but we also have a new combo with our forward attacks. Before we could only do one forward swing with a long wait in between it. Here we got a faster combo, and it's still got a fairly lengthy wait after the 4th hit. So 1, 2, 3, 4 combo, and then you have to wait a while before you can start the combo again. But it also does seem like it's a bit glitchy. For some reason I can't. It's inconsistent in how soon I can start the combo again. If I start mashing the buttons sooner, it seems like it's actually. Yeah, that's pretty annoying. That's one of the reasons, just the glitchiness of it is one of the reasons why I don't generally use the forward combos. I prefer to use the left or right swings, and if the enemy gets too far away, that's when I start comboing. So that's generally how you'll see me fight. Oh wow, what was that? Now here's another locked chest here. Let's see if with our lockpicks we can get this puppy open. Right, left, left, shit, right, left, left, left. And it was hardly worth it, but we did get a healing potion, which is nice. One of the first one of those we've got. No, we've got 2. So that's very nice indeed. Alright. Now, finally, we are stepping outside of the camp again, but not for very long, I'm afraid. What we can do here is take care of 2 quests. And 2 quests that are actually somewhat related, in fact. Snaff told us to find hell mushrooms outside of the south gate, but he also said that he had sent Neck to do the same thing. So we can collect our hell mushrooms out here. Here are a few of them. But we can also take the opportunity to look out for Neck as well. Over there are some scavengers. Don't really care to deal with them just yet. But here are some mole rats sort of chilling outside of a cave. And that cave is certainly of interest, especially as it seems like there's some kind of fairly human-shaped heap in there. So that's definitely something we are going to have to investigate. Now, mole rats, unfortunately, they don't have a pack mentality, but they are fairly tough, and they will all attack us if we try to hit one of them in too close a proximity to the others. Now, mole rats are a bit glitched. You see, he's not getting any closer to me now for some reason. Even the ones in Gothic 2 are the same way. I don't really know why they do that. They won't get any closer than about 4 feet away from you. Unless that's more than 4 feet. That's like 6 or 7. But once you get close to them, that's when they start actually attacking. So you kind of have to keep... Ow. you have to be very prepared for when they do that sudden attack on you. So you have to approach them with sincere caution. And fighting two of them at once is not a great idea because they will get very aggressive once they make their first swing. So it's good, similar to the way that Drax told you to fight scavengers, it's a good idea to try and lure them away one at a time. So let's do the same with this fool. Now there are some animals in this game, some monsters, they can't really do that with. Although you don't tend to find groups of animals with a pack mentality like these, but some of them, like wolves, will actually all aggro on you at once. I don't know if that's as common in this game, but it is very common in Gothic 2. A lot of the creatures have a pack mentality that if one of them notices you, they'll all notice you as well. So here we find a dead guard. He's got some ore on him. He's got an amulet with the name Neck written on it. So it seems we have found the fellow. And a tragic tale it is. So somehow the guard, and the guards are implied to all be pretty good fighters, got himself killed by a bunch of mole rats while out picking mushrooms. I'm not sure I quite find that so easy to believe. But we did get this axe here, which is slightly better than the rusty sword we've been using. And so I'll take it.
Hey, you! I don't think I've seen you here before.
No wonder. I've only just got here.
Then watch out. The outside world is pretty dangerous. You're only safe inside a camp.
Now, this guy only says something when you're coming into the camp, not even if you leave past him. So, basically, he's there to kind of serve the same role as the guard in the front of the north gate, in case you were ever inclined to instead go around and end up entering the camp from the south gate, instead of just going straight here the way we did. Now, since Neck is dead, figure Fletcher might like to know.
It's about Neck.
Yeah?
I think I've found him.
What? Where is he?
Feeding the rats?
Oh, no! Damn it! That means I have to run the show here now. I was hoping he'd be coming back. Now I have a problem.
What's the problem?
I'm in debt to Scatty, right up to my neck. Now he knows I'm doing Neck's job. He'll be coming around every day.
Well, it's a shame that you bring that up because, unfortunately, there's never anything we can actually do about that. Of course, the Golden Mod and possibly Dark Mysteries, I don't really remember, also allow you to take care of his problem as well. And that, I'm afraid, is not the last time I will be bringing that up, because essentially both of those mods were really intending to fill in the gaps of the what seemed like story and quest lines that were never finished in the original Gothic. So a lot of things that were just kind of left open, almost as loose ends. That's what those mods were trying to finish, and it's a shame that neither of the mods worked reliably because, they did a good job of trying to fill in those gaps.
I found Neck.
Good. Have you got any evidence for that?
Now, you can choose to keep this amulet for yourself, or give it to Sly here as proof. And it's a good idea to give it to him, as you are about to see.
I found this amulet on him. Here you go.
It was actually the amulet the whole thing was about. You're a clever guy. You might have had the idea to keep the amulet yourself, but you've made the right decision. If Diego asks me about you, I'll vote in your favor.
Now, it's interesting to note that he seems to have no concern whatsoever for the fate of Neck, but the fact that we had the amulet, it seemed like he expected us to have it, almost as if he knew that Neck was going to be dead. Shady business indeed, and that's another one of those quests that Dark Mysteries at least tried to fully flesh out. I don't really remember how the Golden mod handled it, but either way, it's interesting that if Sly did have a hand in the death of Neck, it's interesting that if he was so eager to have the amulet, why he didn't just take it after Neck died. It's possible that he had a hand in Neck's death, but not a direct role, and just never had the opportunity to find his corpse and get the amulet from him. And he also never mentions why the amulet is so important to him.
I have the things you wanted from me.
Good. I just have to add them. Then the stew will be ready. Wait.
And the stew is ready, and good old Sneff here. That is the end of our arrangement with him. Unfortunately, unlike some other NPCs in later games, he is not just a infinite repository of stew. We only get the 3 that we agreed to. And it's not really all that potent. But I suppose it doesn't taste as awful as we might have thought. So, we haven't quite leveled up yet, which means we don't have 10 more skill points to learn anything from Fingers. But, on the other hand, we've pretty much done everything we can do here for the time being. I believe. Yeah, so we've got the admission, the test of faith is something... We got the map, right? Or did I reload? No, we got the map. And, apart from that, there's nothing else we can really do without actually leaving the camp. And so, ladies and gentlemen, next episode, we're going to start our journey outside the old camp by going with Mordrag to the new camp. And, that's gonna be next time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for watching. I hope I've recorded a decent chunk of episodes here now, and I'm very glad that we finally ironed out all the serious problems and are able to really get the ball rolling here. I was this close to just giving up on this with all the problems I've been having. And thank you all for your support trying to help me figure out what the problem was with a dialogue bug. And although I figured it out right as you all started commenting, telling me, oh, Mud's causing a problem, blah, blah, blah. I figured it out right as you guys started making those comments. But thank you all for trying anyway. And I'll see you all next time.